So we're going to start off this segment with Chris Webber as he spoke about how his agent lined him up with a very lucrative rookie deal that allowed him to opt out after the first year. In today's terms, that shit sounds crazy. Just imagine Cooper Flagg having that option to leave Dallas after his rookie season. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
I don't know if I've ever heard of a rookie of the year, winning rookie of the year, and then
traded.
So, our rookie year, they say, man, what we're gonna do is you're gonna sign the largest contract ever, but we're gonna give you an out after the first year. They said that it's a risk because if you get hurt, you'll have a whole guarantee because the option is yours. It's 5 years, $75 million at the time, 15 years, $75 million. So it's a great guarantee, but we really doing this so you can opt out. So I win rookie of the year, I opt out my contract. So I tell Shaq all the time, thank you, homie, because I used to get it quietly, just wait until Shaq re-up. I could time my timing right after him. So a little bit of the beef with what Don Nelson had with me is because he felt I had too much control over money. Because I could, who rookie of the year this year? Anthony Edwards. Just imagine if they could sign a new deal and get Steph money.
Right.
After 1 year?
Right.
That ain't right, you know what I mean? So anyway, that's what it was. I opted out my contract.
So just a few years after Chris Webber came into the league, the NBA in 1995 introduced the rookie scale extension, where they pretty much put a ceiling cap on how much money rookies can make, and they also gave teams leverage on those rookies by having the team option every single season, I believe after their second year until their fourth year, and if they didn't come to a long-term extension with their current teams, they would hit restricted free agency.
My contract, he went to the owners and said, listen, it's this kid, I'm telling you, he ain't supposed to be thinking like this. He only thinking about the money, blah, 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 blah. And I wanted to go back to Golden State bad. Like, my homies, Mullen, I moved to where Mully lived because I wanted to follow everything he did. Billy O took me to buy my first car. Like, I came home one time, my lights was out because I ain't know how to pay the bills. Billy O had to show me, you know what I'm saying? So these are my brothers. I want to be there. I only play for the Fab. I'm thinking everything's going to be like this. And then, it was just the smear campaign, I know y'all know Love Nelly, he cool.
No, I had a similar situation. He does. We all have different, I have a similar situation with you, so.
Nelly, he did a lot for me as far as I didn't see the game the way he did. I didn't know it was going to turn into today. And he allowed me to handle the ball and all that. But, when it comes to control and things like that, he gets nervous. And so he does things that fear do, push people away. And so I told the owners, I was like, please, I want to play here. They was like, no. And then my agent was like, man, quit, what? Did you know you can go sign someplace a 1-year deal now? And I was like, okay. And my dumb ass went to the worst team in the league to go play with Juwan. Juwan didn't even know I was coming. Yeah, I was just like, where Juwan get drafted to? I'm going over there. So that's how Golden State happened, man. I had to opt out after the first.
You signed a 1-year deal with the Bullets, or you signed a long-term? Oh, did you? 1 year.
So no more in the NBA can you sign a long-term deal with the out after the first because of what my lawyer did, and you can no longer sign a 1-year deal because I signed 2 1-year deals with Washington, trying to wait to get out. Yeah.
One thing you notice right there, as soon as he had all the leverage and power, the smear campaigns all of a sudden started happening. There's a lot of plans sprinkled through the NBA media. When they really speak, they speak for the owners. Later on in this segment, we're going to hear from Mark Termini, the guy that helped Rich Paul and LeBron James with the blueprint of clutch sports, how certain plants within the NBA media help push narratives that the owners want. For example, the first few days of free agency. Especially in the mid-2010s, we used to always hear the narrative that teams are running out of money, that guys need to hurry up and get their deals done. But going back to Chris Webber, he also spoke about Spencer Haywood and some of the dealings he had with his rookie contract and how it basically set things up for guys like Kobe and Kevin Garnett to come into the league fresh out of high school.
So one class I really like is we talk about kind of fair trade. And fair trade, when you think about it, is because of Spencer Haywood. Spencer Haywood came out, he was poor. There was no term called hardship till he came out of Mississippi. His mother was picking cotton when he was in the league. And so he gets suspended, all this other stuff. He takes his court case to the Supreme Court. If he didn't do that, it wouldn't have been no Kobe, wouldn't have been no KG, it wouldn't have been other players. So just to let them know, like, you look at him as a basketball player again, because they try to dumb down a lot of things because you're an athlete or your sport. And I just want to know, I know you think this is about him coming out and getting out here early, but you really should see that because of what he...
They also dumb down the history, so a lot of guys don't even realize some of the things that they should be getting, it was already fought for. When you look at things like player movement, and also the ability for rookies to come into the league and have some sort of control of their careers, even if it's 2 to 3 years out. These issues have been fought over since the 1970s.
Yeah, players that came out early made $30 billion. So we talked to him about the fear he had. You know, he coming from Mississippi, can't, you know, do a lot of things other people could do, and he gonna take this stand for everybody else.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I just want us to appreciate everybody had to do something to get us all to this point. For some people, it was be quiet. For some people, it was just study. For some people, it was raise hell. You know what I mean? And so with that, I'm just trying to make sure I bring up, you know, men and women athletes that have made an impact through protests. And now, you know, we talk about it.
Just sticking to Spencer Haywood, now we're going to hear directly from him, as well as the fruits of his labor, KG, who came fresh out of high school. Just like how Chris Webber just stated, a lot of the NBA teams colluded against Spencer Haywood and the Seattle Supersonics, signing him to a professional contract. The case went all the way up to the higher courts, where they ruled the NBA participated in a group boycott and it violated the Sherman Antitrust Act. It's crazy to think without this ruling, we could have never got Kobe Bryant coming out of high school. But you guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
19 years old, just turned 20. And so I went into the ownership and we said, well, look, they said, we're gonna give you a contract. So they gave me a fraudulent contract, a Bernie Madoff contract, where I was going to get my bulk of my money from age 50 to age 70, providing if I would stay with the company and drive trucks. I know. It's insane. So I get this.
Sound like a Jim Crow deal there.
This was a Jim Crow deal for sure.
Super Jim Crow
and
deal.
It's gonna get deeper.
Wow.
I said, oh my God, I didn't have an attorney. I was like just a young guy taking everything in and believing that they were going to take care of me. So I go get this lawyer. So Al Ross come in, he's my young Jewish lawyer. He come in, I'll straighten this shit out. You know, I got this. So we go into the office with the owners of the team, who are these truckers, the Denver Rockets, who were Rocket Service, which is the Denver Nuggets today. So we go in and we sit down and we're like, yeah, we like to straighten this contract up and we like to do this. So the owner sit there and he looked at us and he said, I tell you what I want you two sons of bitches to do. Spencer, you take your nigger ass out of here and take that Jew-ass lawyer with you. Get out of my office. You can't go back to college because you're ineligible. You can't go to the NBA because you're underclassmen, so you're stuck with me.
This is to Mr. Storm. That's what he said to you.
No, that Mr. Storm, Hannah Storm's dad, he was the agent who put us all together. This was J.W. Ringsby, who owned the Denver Rockets. And he owned a franchise here. So then Sam Schulman, who owned the Seattle Supersonics, and Jerry Colangelo, who owned the Phoenix Suns, they had the idea, we're going to, because the ABA was raiding the NBA with players, so he said, let's raid the ABA guys. Every time they get an MVP, we're gonna steal him and bring him to the NBA. But the one problem with me, they got Connie Hawkins to go to Phoenix, and then I was the next MVP, so I was underclassed still. I had one more year left. Sam Schulman said, you know, what are we going to do? And I said, I want to play. And Sam Schulman said, well, I'm going to teach you about Jewish loyalty. I'm going to put up the finance for your case all the way through. And I don't care how far it go, we're going to fight this. So I was like, great. So I filed suit And I signed with Seattle. They gave me a real contract. I filed suit for the rights to play in the NBA and against the NC2A because the NC2A was under the banner like, you know, he's stealing all of our, they're gonna steal all of our economics and everything from players because they're gonna go from college or high school to the pros, and we're not gonna make any money anymore. So that was a big deal. Wow. And so the NBA was like, we'll put up a good front, and because we don't wanna like the public to be angry with the NBA. So they filed, when I filed suit, they filed suit against me and they jammed me for the first 10 games. I had to sit home and just practice and do this. And
sit out, you had to sit out.
Yeah, so the next 10 games, I got in, they were like, the first game I got in, it was like, ladies and gentlemen, we have an illegal player on the floor, number 24.
This how they did you?
Yeah, and I was like,
what?
I'm not illegal. I'm here.
Fuck.
And so.
On the mic.
On the mic. And so, and this game is being played under protest. So I played the game, and the game was under protest. So all of my first 10 games were under protest. Maybe it would count, and maybe not. And then they got an injunction again for another 10 games I had to sit out. Then the next 10 games, I got an injunction to play again. We get to Cincinnati, and they said, guess what, ladies and gentlemen, we got an injunction tonight. And they said, this injunction read, he must be outside of the grounds in which this arena sat on. So they put me out into the snow.
Oh, wow.
So I stayed out in the snow and I almost froze, and then I got on the bus and left and had another 10 games. Then I got another 10 games. Next time we were in Chicago, Chet Walker is warming up on the other end, and the owners of the Chicago Bulls said, act as if you got hurt. So Chet said, oh my God, my ankle is hurt. And so the next morning I get up and they sued me for $600,000.
Why?
Because he said he tripped on his ankle while I was warming up on the other end.
So they're playing all these games with you.
All kinds of games. So
wow.
The case maneuvered its way all the way to the Supreme Court. And when it got to the Supreme Court, Thurgood Marshall was on the court. He was one of the justices on the court, and he kept saying, you know, it's ironic this case is not affecting tennis players, hockey players, baseball players, and he kept going on with different sports. And he said, now, ironically, it's only the 2 revenue sports in college that this rule is affecting. And so he said, you know, we're sending our soldiers to Vietnam at age 18. They're coming back maimed and hurt and sick and dying. But yet, you got a player whose mother is picking cotton in Silver City, Mississippi for $2 a day. My mother was at that time. But yet he make all of this money for the Olympics. He made all of this money for the university. He made all of this money for the ABA, and yet he can't make a living in the NBA. And so that's when the justice got together and they said, they came back 7-2 in favor of me.
Oh, wow.
And that's when the case was over, March 1st, 1971. Wow. And then the next round was, let's go play. Because the union didn't support me, so I was out alone by myself doing this whole process. And so then we started playing, and we got to Milwaukee and Kareem, where normally every team would go downstairs and stay downstairs and make me sweat upstairs by myself, and people throw bottles and stuff. These are real bottles back in those days, you know, not that plastic stuff. So I would like stand there, yeah, I'm the man, you know, and Kareem wouldn't go down. So we stood in the middle of the floor just kicking it, you know? Wow. And so everybody came up from the Bucks, and then we started playing.
Wow.
And that's when everybody said, damn, this guy's ready to play. And let's get ready for the young guys coming in because they are going to come. And then the NBA says, you know what? This is a great thing for us. Because now we have a chance to expand and grow. Because before they had 4 years of waiting outside, you know, after high school, you had to wait 4 years before you could come into the NBA.
That was to help college grow. They was growing the college game. College players never ever thought about having their own rights. Never ever thought about having anything. Didn't even know how to start negotiating or even start that conversation. We weren't equipped for that.
Right.
But yet they owned your rights for 4 years and they made money on you for 4 years. And how dare you ask for anything?
And
you're
don't
getting
you
an education.
You're not even asked for a hamburger.
Facts. Meanwhile, numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie.
And as we can see how it played out today, the numbers definitely don't lie in college sports with the lucrative NIL situations, and also even for the ladies. Going into the WNBA is questionable because the girls are making so much money while staying in college. But this exact case that Spencer Haywood had to go through opened things up for guys like KG and Kobe Bryant to come into the league. But again, initially that pushback that the NBA owners had, they still found a way to push that eligibility back, especially after LeBron James had came in the NBA in 2003. Had it not been for that, we would have seen guys like Greg Oden come out of high school and get into the league. And to add some more nuance to the other part of the conversation that they had about how 18-year-olds allowed the league to actually expand because it was a brand new talent pool coming in. We're seeing that play out today in the NBA. Now there's a more globalized talent pool coming into the league. We're always hearing about Vegas and Seattle possibly getting teams. And now the NBA has collaborated with the people over at FIBA, and they want to open up a new branch in Europe. Sometimes the league getting into unfamiliar waters, it opens up opportunities. And with the advent of streaming, having a globalized league doesn't sound too crazy. Don't be surprised if the NBA becomes an open league, very similar to international soccer leagues around the world, where the local club teams compete against each other. That's where all this is headed towards. But jumping right back to the topic of rookie deals, and perhaps the most infamous one with Jim Jackson, where he held out of his deal after joining the Mavericks in the early 90s. This situation was the most egregious to NBA owners, as they didn't like the fact that his agent, Mark Termody, the guy that will eventually help Rich Paul and LeBron James form Clutch Sports, not only getting his client paid after holding out, but also getting the exact terms that they initially wanted, and even dangling the possibility of taking the NBA to the Supreme Court. So there was a lot of ramifications from this scenario. Of course, a few years later in 1995, they introduced the rookie scale contract, capping how much money rookies can make, also putting a limit on the mobility of those players in order to move from team to team in their first few years in the league. Jim Jackson gives his perspective on the story. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
When I first got there, I was the first one. We already had an interim head coach. Donald Carter was the owner. Next year, they hired Quinn Buckner, first-time coach, Jamal's first year. Next year, they sell the team, okay? David McDavid buys the team. Jay Kidd gets drafted. Next year, they sell the team, another coach. So I had 3 owners, 4 coaches, and 5 years.
No continuity.
So no continuity, no stability up front in the front office. So how you think the product is going to deal with all of the change? Because you don't have anything that's set in stone. So yeah, as young guys, you needed direction, you needed stability, and we didn't have it as an organization.
Now keep in mind, with all that chaos, they wanted Jim Jackson as the 4th overall pick to accept the same payout that the number 8th pick got. So keep in mind that quick soliloquy of just the overall picture of what exactly ended up playing out. Now we're going to hear what he went through as he entered the league and tried to navigate his way into a rookie contract. He sat down and explained it perfectly to Paul George.
When you finally got a chance to get back into the game, you played 28 games, you said. How awkward was that situation going back into the locker room now after being drafted, and then you're coming in later into the season?
Well, it's funny because I never got a chance to be in Dallas, period. I got the press conference after I got drafted, and Donald Carter was the owner at the time. Norm Sadri was the general manager. But after that, I was back in Columbus, back in Ohio, training. So as we got closer to trying to get the deal done. Nothing was getting done. So I was doing I never was there. So I never established a relationship with any of the players, the coaches, or anything. So basically, I'm running 5-on-5 at home, just trying to stay in shape.
Huh?
You know, but here's the thing that I learned, man, about that time. And it was hard. It was extremely difficult because I'm 22 at the time, and your dream is to go play in the NBA. Okay, it's right there at your fingertips. The line is right there, but I can't get to the line. I'm close to I can't get over it because but I had to make a decision. And my agent was really good, Mark Termini, was really good. Said, Jimmy, here is what's going on. Here's how it will affect you if you sign the deal they want down the line. Not just today, but how it affects you down the line and how it affects next year's 4th pick, which was Jamal Mashburn, because the market is thrown off. So I'm going to give you all these scenarios, but ultimately you got to be comfortable with what's going on, because they can come at me as an agent, but they gonna come at you as a player. Are you gonna be able? I said, man, I can handle it. I can handle the criticism. I can handle all the negative comments because I know I'm right. And if I know I'm right, I know I'm not trying to take advantage of the situation, I can sleep at night. So, bro, now, here's the caveat. The reason why I came in game 28 is because I was about to have a lawsuit against the NBA. So it's deep because it's a word called collusion. And what happened was, at the time, we found out that David Stern had talked to these owners about paying rookies these high, big-term contracts. You can't tell an owner what to pay. So we got wind of it.
Yeah.
This is yet another strike against the NBA with the collusion. Spencer Hayward, 1970, he took it all the way to the Supreme Court and won, with the league trying to collude against him with that quote-unquote term group boycott. But right here, it shows you structurally, behind the scenes, they do not want the players coming in to get paid a lot of money, and they also do not like player movement. So the NBA going into their new TV deal, we're seeing this play out in real time. We're going to see a lot less superstars becoming free agents, and player mobility now has been reduced to a bunch of middle-tier players going from team to team.
Because there were some trade scenarios in which Dallas could have traded me. Then they didn't. So we got wind of it, went to the Players Association and said, we want to file this lawsuit against the NBA. So my deal at the time would have been, I got an offer from Cleveland, I think it was 6 years, 21, okay? If I won my lawsuit, Mavericks would owe me double. What do you think happened? I signed.
Yeah.
I signed.
So did they match it?
No. So they just came in with my original market rate, which was 7 years, 21, right
Got
under
it.
For the 4th.
right under for the 4th pick. Okay.
Got it. Okay.
So, but I got all my money in 28 games. See, this is why I tell people to be careful when you hear stuff in the news, like your negotiations. You know this firsthand with the Clippers. Things that were being said were sometimes not actually what the conversation in that room was. So you gotta be very careful when you regurgitate information that people are saying, because you don't know those intimate conversations that I had in the room with ownership, that in the public's eyes, they said, well, no, you got offered the Lakers. Why you didn't? None of that stuff happened. But I knew inside what happened. Nobody knew about the lawsuit. Then I finally signed, and I'm with the Mavericks, and Quinn Buckner is there, and management is there, and everybody's patting me on the back, and we're so happy to have you. Man, what do you think I'm thinking? Real talk.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'm in my mind, I'm like, man, I'll still be at home if I didn't have this lawsuit.
Right.
That's crazy.
So think about it. So now going into it, I have no training camp, no nothing. You know the first game we played against? Defending champs was the Houston Rockets. It was Akeem. It was Vernon Maxwell. It was Kenny Smith. It was my boy Sam Cassell. It was Robert Horry. That was my first game.
Yeah.
I had like 2 or 3 days of practice.
You heard all those sound effects when he mentioned Hakeem's name? All the grunts right there, because they know Hakeem's the real deal. And for some of you who don't know, if you go back through the footage, you'll see Hakeem was basically Giannis with a jump shot and crazy footwork in the post. As far as defense and athleticism, him and Giannis look the same out there. So at the end of the day, that's some scary shit.
Right.
Played, had signs in there, some boos, some cheers. Next game I played, we had 2 games at home. Phoenix Suns, Charles Barkley. We got Dan Martin, we got Kevin Johnson. Those are my first 2 introductory games in the league.
Awesome.
I did better from game to game. I'm gonna tell you that though. But it was the surreal moment was this. I don't know what it was like for you the first time you got on the court. At least you got a chance to go through training camp, then go through preseason, and then play your first game. And none of that. I go from practice to put on a Mavericks uniform to walking out to boos and some cheers, playing against those guys. I mean, you talking about a head rush?
Yeah.
But I think my maturity at the time helped me handle what was coming at me. Because at the end of the day, once you get settled in, it's just basketball.
Right.
At the end of the day, even though I didn't have camp, you figure it out. And I got a chance to figure it out my rookie year. I mean, I averaged 17 points a game, and I had no training camp, had no nothing, and no against those guys. But you figure it out. But you talking about a story, bro? That one right there. But it cost me, I think, a little bit long term because I fought the league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was worth it long term for me to do it. So I wouldn't change it.
So that was in 92. You think that kind of had a part to do with them eventually coming to a rookie scale in 95?
Yeah, I do. Because when C-Webb signed the big deal, it was like, hold up. And I think right after that, Glenn Robinson did. Okay. And then it was KG that might have been the last one that did. But a lot of it too was through the union. Now, I'm part of the union. I was a VP of the union back in the day. It was preserving salaries and spots, kind of like what they did with the salary cap for rookies now, that veterans would still be able to earn.
100%. And also going back to KG, he was the last rookie to get that kind of deal. I believe he was making almost the same amount of money as Michael Jordan in the late 90s. He was getting around $30 million a year back then. Unfortunate for Kobe, I don't think he was a high enough draft pick, and he really wasn't at his A game at the time to earn that kind of money. So he just barely missed out on that window. But it did close with KG, and in a way, even though the league earns about 10 times more money now, the figures for the rookie scales look very similar to what KG was making in the late 90s now. That's with inflation, with all the evaluations going up, with a brand new lucrative television deal. So it shows you the impact of these situations, the impact of these guys like Spencer Haywood going to court and fighting the league. Same thing for Jim Jackson right here. Standing his ground, not willing to take the same salary as the 8th pick.
So that had a lot to do with it too. And again, back then you weren't making the TV money either.
Right. That's a whole new
So it was
now.
a little pushback from the vets that the rookies can come in and make this big money right away. Think about it. When I came in, bro, I was making $3 million a year. Michael Jordan was making 2.6. 2.6.
That's crazy.
That's real crazy.
On his deal. He got his big money on the back end when he got, 36 million. But at that time, Mike was making 2.6.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's a dynamic the NBA will never, ever really experience anymore. Just the hunger that came out of the money being so limited. Guys were getting like 10 years, $10 million contracts. So the scarcity of shoe deals at the time, also the scarcity of money being given out to different players on the teams, it created that competitive environment that everyone kind of misses, that aura from the 90s, 80s, etc. That old school gridiron, hard-nosed energy that Charles Barkley and Shaq and all of them on the Inside NBA show tend to talk about.
You're talking about globally. Why you think NBA is in China? Why you think they're in Brazil? Why you think they're in Africa? Why you think they're in India? Because market-wise, now that's a whole different TV market. Okay, that's part of the CBA, but still merchandise, all of that, the business of basketball. So if you got...
I got to add on to that. Think about the nuance of governments willing to throw money at these leagues to host these games. It could be a regular preseason game or even the All-Star game. The Middle East in particular, there's a lot of sovereign money being put into rebranding their image globally. They did it for the Qatar 2022 World Cup. and their relations with the NBA is continuing to expand. So be on the lookout for that.
NBC paying $2.2 billion, okay? You got ESPN paying $2.2 billion. Now you got Amazon paying $1.8 billion to the TV rights. That's not counting what they're getting overseas in Europe. That's not counting that. That's just domestically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as those numbers increase, the salary cap increases, players' salary is going to increase. That you think franchises. Boston sells for $6 million. Well, $6 million. Lakers just sold for $10
billion.
billion.
Yeah.
They said million.
No, billion. So Boston sold for $6 billion. So you think that somewhere, but the Lakers are so much more valuable, but not how much more valuable are they than the Celtics? It's who want to pay it. So you keep asking like, how big? We thought it was a big jump from when Mr. Ballmer bought it for $2.3 billion.
Yeah.
But that's a $4 billion difference between the Celtics. But I don't know. Did you think it'd be capped out one day?
I don't think so.
Hell no.
I don't think so. Because now I think we know enough that if the TV ratings are continuing to rise, like why won't the salaries rise, right? Like if we're all in for everybody making money here, owners is for sure making their money. Why can't we make ours too? You know what I mean? We growing the game. You know, I think the with the social media now, like the players have even more power with their brands. And what I'm trying to say, like with the social media, people like we can see what he's doing. We can see what they're doing. I think that was what was limiting the game back then, right? You got big personalities. You got MJ. Like just imagine if social media was present in MJ days, how much that would have drove the game that much more.
So last but not least, we're going to hear from Mark Termini, Jim Jackson's agent at the time, and the man who not only laid down the blueprint for Rich Paul and LeBron James's Clutch Sports, but he also helped them in that business venture. He gives great insight to the leverage of power that owners have, even to players that have a 1% talent around the world, to the power dynamic between owners and players within these contract negotiations. And surprisingly, even though these players have a 1% talent that you cannot find around the world, at times they are still intimidated during these negotiations to get their true value, and it's almost as if they negotiate from a weak position. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Again, I don't assign morality to anything that positively or negatively to money, tactics, good faith, bad faith. You know, it's a game. And I've had guys tell me, Mark, stop playing games, or I'm not going to play games. It's like, really? Well, guess what? Life is a game. Negotiations are a game. If you don't, I put that in the book too. If you don't want to play and somebody else wants to play, you're going to lose. And yeah, I'm playing a game and you're using your tactic. I'm not mad at you, but it's my job to recognize your tactic, to counter it, and to come up with my own tactics. If I told you the owners are great, you know, we've got this deadline, whether it's a marketing deadline, I've heard religious holidays deadline, I've heard wedding deadlines, I've heard investment deadlines. And it's easy, especially if the agent and the player, and this is a very subliminal psychological trait that you guys will recognize as you see it, but maybe you've never really thought about it, where the agent and the player view themselves somewhat as inferior to the owner. The owner's a billionaire. These are very intimidating guys. The team is a very powerful institution. As one player told me that I highly respected him, but he was questioning a tactic. He goes, you know, the man always wins. I'm like, well, not always. Not if somebody is skilled enough to exploit the needs or the weaknesses that the man has. I never accepted that. And I never went to the table with that. So that's where I came up with the axiom. I see too many people say, well, I've got to get this done by a certain day, whether it's because July 3rd, all my friends are going to ask me, why is my name not on the scroll at ESPN? And I have to educate that client, say, who cares? Why are you imposing an artificial, free agency doesn't end until November, hypothetically.
And the media also helps perpetuate that narrative. Again, in the mid-2010s, a lot of media members, especially coming out of ESPN, used to point out that guys would have to hurry up and get deals done before teams run out of money. It always sounded dumb, but they always alluded that this would end up being the situation.
So why are you imposing an artificial deadline? I have to get my contract done by the 3rd. I have to get my contract done. I'm going on my honeymoon. I've heard all of these. And you have to have enough stature and experience to tell the player, like, look, I don't care about your honeymoon or your cruise or your holiday or whatever it is. When the deal is done properly and it's ready to sign, that's when it'll be done. And you're going to be a lot happier for it, young man, because you're going to look back and laugh and say, wow, why would I sacrifice my position for this artificial deadline that I imposed on myself? And people do it all the time in business. They'll just say, well, I'll get back to you with an answer by Wednesday. And I ask them, well, why are you imposing that deadline on yourself? Why don't you just wait? Because you don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday. Something else might come into the equation that you can use. So that's where that comes from. And why it applies to many different areas across the decades of negotiations, but also outside of the NBA negotiations.
Again, we're hearing from Mark Termini, the guy who basically laid out the blueprint for Clutch Sports for Rich Paul as well as LeBron James to follow. And he has well over 30 years of experience dealing with NBA contract negotiations. And just seeing his mentality when dealing with the owners, just always understanding that there's always an angle that you could exploit, and they have deep pocketbooks, so why not put them in a position to pay? But he also spoke about how franchises leverage historical payments, just like how Jim Jackson spoke on earlier. Had he took that bad deal as the 4th overall pick, what's going to happen for the guys that would play behind him? And also, Chris Webber spoke about taking his one-year deals and how that would basically reset the market, thus forcing the owners having to pay rookies a lot larger piece of the pie. Mark Termini right here speaks about owners using that same exact historical context to even justify not giving guys like LeBron James the max, as he himself had to fight for LeBron James to get that sort of deal when he made his return to Cleveland back in 2014.
To educate the clients, because I'm the more experienced person and that's my area and that's what they're paying me for. And I found that when you take the time with any of those players, they may be relative levels of experience, they'll grasp what the strategy is. And if there's a certain amount of trust and respect, it's amazing the things you can accomplish. So we did that with all those players through those years. I did that with the players starting in the 80s. But as to LeBron, look, no team, and this is nothing negative towards the Cavs, they don't want their number one asset having that kind of freedom on a year-to-year basis. They still don't. So it had to be imposed upon them. And it was. And one of the points that I was very adamant about is making the point that LeBron had never had a max contract until I was in charge of negotiating his contracts. And if I had a nickel for every time somebody would say, before I represented LeBron, before I was doing his contracts, and it's still to this day about top players, people say anybody could represent, insert name, Michael Jordan, Wembanyama, LeBron James. And my response to that was like, really? Then why has he never gotten a max contract until I did his contract? So it must not be so automatic. So I took pride in that. And the other part was more global. And I felt like if my name is on it, he has to get what he should get, not because of Mark Termini, because who he is. And if LeBron James doesn't get a max contract, there's not going to be any more max contracts. Because if you know how teams work, they're going to come in, they're going to tell the next agent, hey, LeBron doesn't have a max contract. And they tried that with us in 2014. People say, well, I'm sure they just came and just offered you whatever you wanted. No, if I told you the video of this, or showed you the video of this, people that came to downtown Cleveland and they started out, well, we have this much cap room, multiple teams. A couple of them said right away, like, whatever you want. But a couple of them are very experienced guys, very competitive guys, and they're coming from a history where LeBron did not have a max contract. So that's another point I try to make. These guys don't just give you something. I'm always sensitive to when media members say, The Celtics gave Jaylen Brown this. Why is it they gave it to him? They didn't just give it to him, and certainly not with me. I forced them to do that, but it's always the team is on the high ground where they decide to give it.
That's right.
Well, they might have given it to me at the point of a gun, and you can say call it all you want, but they didn't want to. So teams came in and said, we can give him whatever it was, $10 million under the max, $5 million. And I went to Holy Name High School. They had the nuns, and the nuns had a ruler. And when the nuns thought you were misbehaving, they said, put your hands out there, Mr. Termini, and then they would whack it with your fingers. So when these guys came in, I was like, put your hands out there, okay? And I don't know what I grabbed. There was a couple guys that they had to take a little Catholic school pain. I said, it's gonna be the max, okay? And then they quickly got to the max and stopped that discussion, and the word got out. But I had to make that point because he had never had that before. And the same thing, one of the points I make in the book is that these threads, some of them are old school, and people say, well, we want to hear about the 80s, 90s. I get it. But if you're smart, you will hear about those things and you'll listen to them, because those are merely issues and business principles that applied then, and they still apply. Doesn't mean you shoot the two-handed set shot. I'm not that guy. But I'm saying those traits, those characteristics, those business issues, you can see them still manifesting themselves today. You may not have the tools of holdouts the same way. You have a rookie scale now, but the psychology of representing the player with skill, with strength, finding leverage, evaluating it properly, being willing to use it, not evaluating or thinking you have more leverage than you do, but also not acting as if you don't have the leverage that you do have. Those are all principles that were applied by me in the 80s. And I see guys using them wisely now, the top agents, and I see other agents or team members not using them properly. And that's kind of what formulated a lot of what's in the book.
It goes to show you, no matter what era the NBA players are in, it's always going to be about what they could leverage. And if they came at LeBron James after 11 years of playing in the NBA and dominating, and still tippy-toe around the max because he never had it before, you could only imagine how they felt when they seen Chris Webber opt out of one-year rookie deals, Jim Jackson getting paid a large amount of money without even playing half his rookie season. The owners have never wanted to ever set the precedent that this will become the new standard. Just like when LeBron James, as a figurehead of the league, left his original organization in Cleveland and set the standard of guys taking control of where they want to go. That kind of leverage is still playing out today, because in this new CBA, they put a lot of restrictions and limits on player mobility. They don't want franchise guys walking away and those organizations getting nothing in return. So this was great insight on the business side of the game, and we got great perspective from multiple eras of the league and the outcomes of those events, how they affected the league going down the line. But hey, it is what it is. You guys definitely hit up the link in the description below. Check out the playlist. We got more NBA stories just like this, and also some game film along with the storytelling. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.